Good morning. It's been a very interesting morning so far. Been having things knocked over, and apparently I have some activity going on, but we are still going to power through that because I have things to do. um, so I was going to talk about some other subjects, but I am going to go ahead and start with my introduction to dragons. Um, Many different, I want to say ethnics, um, have their own versions of dragons and what they stand for and what they represent and all that stuff. So the best way that I can explain anything on any level is to give an example of what I go through, what I have learned, what I have felt, seen, and hopefully it'll help someone else understand things. Um, I have to make sure I reiterate that every person is an individual, and for each individual, their from their physical lifestyle to their spiritual lifestyle is going to be unique to that individual, which means everything that works for me may not work for all, just as what works for you may not work for another person. And that's where acceptance and understanding really play a big part in working with other people. Um, just as every living person is an individual, every living creature has their own personality, so do the spirit side of things, creatures, dragons, angels, uh, the dead, spirit, people. Like, they're all individuals. So you're not really going to find any that are exactly the same. What you will find is, like, different species do have their own set up rules and guidelines that they live by, but they do not all have the same personality. So with that being laid down, um, I can share with y'all my experiences and hopefully shed some light on dragons as a spiritual being, not the media like, which are very cool, by the way. They're just a little off. Well, some uh, writers and stuff do get pretty close to as close as they can to a spiritual dragon being, but um, they miss some pretty big details. So let's get started. We're gonna do story time right now. Gonna bring y'all back to my age around 7, usually 7, 8ish. That's when a lot of people or a lot of children start developing uh, spiritual gifts, insight, seeing things even more profound than, not that they can't see it before then. That's kind of when the brain starts kind of waking up and saying, yeah, that's not really a real living person. That's a spirit or a ghost, or kind of processing things a little differently. So, a younger child can see entities and stuff. I'm not saying it can't. I'm saying like around 7 or 8 is when the brain, the physical brain, kind of starts developing enough to kind of know that this is a little off. This isn't right. So, and a lot of questions start happening around that age. What is this, Mom? Do you see that too? Yeah, we all know that. So let's just say around 7 or 8. Um, I had this particular car ride, like conversation in a car ride with my mother, and my little brother was there too. And we were talking about guardian angels. I know, right? Wait, I thought this was dragon introduction. We're gonna get there. Um, so I had a very active imagination, I guess, is what adults called it back then. So, I seen a lot of things. Um, and at that time, I had already seen my first uh, manifestation of a spirit, like, you know. So uh, we were having this conversation, and Mom was talking to us about guardian angels. And so I'm like staring out the car window, looking at the sky and the clouds, like kids do, or used to until they had, all the phones and stuff. But so I'm looking outside at the sky, and I imagine I see, an angel, you know, flying, you know. Uh, really didn't have any details to it other than it had wings and it kind of was humanoid, mostly just a bright light. So, I mean, I was kind of like imagining like I was seeing my guardian angel flying in the sky while she was talking. And then it got to the conversation where, you know, your guardian angel can take any form that it, it needs to accomplish whatever God's orders or uh, request was for that angel to do or help you with. So, I'm looking out the window, and this angel-y figure that I'm imagining that is there turns into a dragon. Now, back then, I was more into like My Little Ponies and stuff, so yeah, they had the little dragon. I think his name was Spike. He was pretty cool, but it wasn't like I just love dragons. Oh my god, like I have to have a dragon. It wasn't like I was over like everybody bought me unicorns and Pegasus. Okay, like not dragons. So, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I see a dragon flying. So, like, we're, Robin, Mom's still talking about guardian angels and stuff, and as she's talking, I'm watching, the sky out there and seeing this imaginary friend, I guess you call it, fly around. Imaginary friend, angel, dragon, kind of speaks to me, but like in my mind, you know, it started talking, and it said, you know, you can have more than one guardian angel. So I look around and I was like, oh, cool. There's a whole bunch of dragons now flying around. Like, oh, that's cool. Um, kid imagination, right? So, whenever I needed help or did anything, I always just imagine my guardian angel helping me, and my guardian angel always seemed to take the form of a dragon. Was not very mean or like, the typical media dragon would be. More nurturing, understanding, patient, helpful. Always made sure I was protected. Of course, I'm a kid, so I'm thinking like my imaginary friend's pretty cool. But I did learn a lot. Like it was always like that conscious voice, like don't do that. You will hurt yourself, or you know, you need to do it this way, or the right answer is, you know, and it kind of helped me, be the person that I am today. Like really think about things before I do them. Or that little conscious voice would come in and be like, yeah, that's not a good idea. You know, you can get in trouble for it. Um, it never said I couldn't do it. It just said that's probably not in the best interest that you want to do that. Um, I did spend a lot of time in the church, Catholic church, was raised Catholic. So my childhood really consists of church, school, and we had 3 German Shepherds. So yeah, playing with the German Shepherds. Like that was, you know, pretty much most of my childhood. Going back and thinking about it, uh, it it's really intriguing how, you know, things turned out from when I was a child, believing that I had an imaginary friend, a guardian angel that was a dragon shape, to where I sit here today and can tell you, like, yeah, that was not really a typical guardian angel. Yeah, that was really just a dragon. uh, so how do I know that? Well, when I became, as I became older in teenage years, my imaginary friend, spirit guide, kind of laid low. Um, I'm I'm a teen. I'm too big for that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's a whole world here I got to learn about and be a part of and figure out what I want to be and do and da da da. So there wasn't much interaction because, I'm a big girl now. Um, and, I thought, oh, well, that's done. That was a kid thing. I'm done with it. Uh, you know, I kind of lost my way spiritually. I mean, most teens do. It's a time to really uh, get to know who, yourself and develop into who you're going to be as an adult. So there's a lot of physical changes going on, a lot of mental changes going on, a lot of emotional period of confusion, understanding, um, trying to fit in, all that stuff. Yeah, it's typical. We all been through it. But those are some things that that we need to go through. Every human being goes through it. Um, the adolescence. I mean, we just got to figure it out. You know, one day at a time. Um, until I want to say around 22. Yeah, around 22. Um, I started getting back into meditation and a more spiritual thing. Now, I always went to church and stuff, but I kind of lost connection with God and things around that time, the late teens, early 20s, because of, you know, having kids, getting married, getting divorced, all these playing, front center over, being connected with God and my spiritual self. So when I started to meditate again, uh, late at night, I would have some music playing. I mean, a lot of people ask how you meditate. I mean, I just put some music on myself, and then I sit in the dark, and then I kind of like just let the music rhythm flow, and you know start imagining things or thinking of things, and let it flow from there. That's how I do it, but everybody's different. Um, find what works for you. So when I started meditating again, um, I didn't just think dragon, okay? It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to think about dragons. Like, that's not what happened. um, they, meditated about who the person is that I want to be, what I want to change, different things like that. I would be kind of meditating on and just letting the flow and trying to rebuild who I am supposed to be. And during that time, I ended up visiting a kind of like a rock island. I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of rocky, like a cave chill to it, but it's kind of an island because it's like floating in the middle of like somewheres. And I ended up visiting this in a meditated state, and on that island was many dragon figures. And when I first visited, I uh, I just kind of watched and learned and just like took in the environment and the energy and all the different things. But the more I meditated, the more clearer it got, and the more profound, I guess you'd say, the images and the smells and the conversations were coming in much more clearer. I'm not going to get into all the details of what happened on the particular island with me participating and stuff like that. Nothing like too serious, just, you know, learning and understanding different rules and power, I guess you'll say, or abilities and different things like that. But I had one particular dragon, and I call him Chief. So if you ever hear me talking about Chief, this is Chief. Chief is like the main dragon of the group, I guess you would call it. He's not the leader, but he is the like order giver. So they work for God and of course the universe, God, the almighty power of everything. And the orders come straight from him. And what, you know, he requires, then Chief would send a particular dragon with that apparently ability or skill set to go do that work, whether it's healing, protection, um, guidance, most of them are a positive in this particular group or layer. They are considered the balance keepers of the innocent and earth. I just totally, chop that up. uh, the protectors of Earth's innocent and balance. So basically, they like to keep order in nature. They like to make sure the innocence is justified, stuff like that. Um, they all have jobs, so or they like to have jobs. Um, so whenever I pray, or when I was younger, I thought, you know, I sent a dragon as a prayer. Now, that's not exactly how it works, but when you're a kid, you don't really get the concept. So the chief, the chief, he's the one that actually, his voice and everything, he's the one that was guiding me when I was younger. I didn't know this, but you know, he was the one that was teaching me and showing me things that God, I guess, had planned for me, or hoped that I chose and developed, accepted the teachings. Whenever I grew older, of course, and I started coming back. It wasn't like they forced themselves, like, oh, you have to do this. They didn't force anything. But as I started growing and meditating and visiting more often to this particular um, place, it started, I started developing. I always had like the psychic abilities, but like things started happening in a more physical sense. Um, Blessings were coming. Uh, yes, I'm always attacked by negative people, but that's just, the road that we live on. Um, Always being safe. I mean, I should be dead, y'all. Like 10 times over. Like for real. Like how many car accidents and severe car accidents that I've been into. Even the doctors like are dumbfounded. Like, how am I not like in a wheelchair and more serious damage? So I have no doubt in my mind that I have protection, and I have friends in high places. So that kind of helped me. I don't want to say believe, because I'm kind of a, fact person. I like the facts, the truth, the rules of the situation or whatever. And, rules are fun, guys. Nah, Monica reference off a friend, sorry. I like to have organization, so it's not that I didn't believe in them, but I didn't really feel like I separated it from my spiritual meditation life and my physical life. And eventually it started weaving together. And as it weaved together, more physical things started happening. Like cool, but like there's no denying like this is happening. And that's kind of when I become more aware of these beings, these angelic beings. Dragons have angelic energy. I'm just going to throw that out there. It has the same vibration as an angel would, except it had the only difference between the dragon's energy and the angel energy, or the angelic energy of the what typical angel people think is the dragon angelic energy has a ground to it, like an earthy vibe to it too. Like it's two different vibrations, but it's blended to one. So it's actually a more stable energy. I don't know if y'all understood that, but that's the best way I could describe it. So they're actually able to walk on both realms. Uh, Actually, they're able to travel many dimensions. So dragons actually have a more wide variety, I guess, of area that they can cover than just your normal typical angel. We're not going to get we're not going to get started on the angel and all the different angels that they have and all that. That's a whole different conversation, but they're kind of like two in the same with different like jobs, so to say. Um, a lot of people think I'm always right. Look, I mean, I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. But ancient beings that have been around for eons know a whole hell of a lot. And normally, if you hear me speaking in like this very educated, processed conversation, very intellectual, 9 times out of 10, I'm in spirit form and we are communicating on a higher level. I'm actually communicating on a higher level of intellect, which means I'm using dragon wisdom. That's what I call it. So it's not always going to be welcomed, and it's not always going to be sugar. Well, you know what? It's never sugar coated. Dragons are straightforward, raw truth. Basically, they don't beat around the bush. They don't have a need to. They've been around for God knows how long. Only God knows how long. And there's no reason for them to want to sugarcoat. Like, they've probably done this scenario 1,000 times. It's like, this is what's going to happen. It always does. you know, just give it to me straight, Chief. Just give it to me straight. And he will. You can ask some of my sisters. Like, he will give it to you straight. Like, should I be doing this? No. Yeah. Uh-oh. Battery running low. I was charging this a minute ago. Anyway, we're going to take a break. And we'll get back to it in a minute while I get the charging wire ready.